everybody! Welcome back to another episode of Timeout with Tackle What's Next, where we chat with athletes and executives about the power sport, the impact sport has made on their lives, and what they've learned that they've brought into life outside of the game. I am your host, Danielle Berman. I am the founder and CEO of Tackle What's Next, where we aim to change the narrative around life after sports. And tonight we have an awesome guest taking a time out with us. Tonight we are talking to Cam F. Awesome. And Cam is an Emmy-nominated 6-time USA national champ. He's a 4-time Golden Gloves national champ, 3-time Olympic trials champion, heavyweight boxer. He is the former captain of the USA national boxing team. He holds the title as the winningest boxer in USA boxing history. And now he is a motivational speaker and the founder of Awesome Talks. And through Awesome Talks, he really leads these soulful and insightful and lighthearted keynotes and workshops so he can really prepare his audiences to effectively communicate with how all these different cultures here in American society. That's really his goal. And during those speeches, he really talks about how he's faced adversity both in and out of the ring, and he used a championship mindset, which really relates to boxing, right? We talk a lot about how sport and business tie together. And boxing is really a great metaphor for life. This is what Cam says, because everyone is fighting their own battles, which I completely agree, which this really makes his message so relatable. So I see Cam's here. We're going to get him on the screen, and I'm really excited for him to share his journey with us. So welcome, Cam, for taking a time out with us. Hey, Cam, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for taking a time out with us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Well, I want to just see how things are going. I know you're traveling all over the place. You're doing tons of speeches with Awesome Talks. So where have you been recently? What kind of work have you been doing through that?
The last month I've been to Ireland, Portugal, Mass, and uh, Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Denver. Yeah, a
All
lot of
over the
traveling.
place. Yes, I love it. Hopefully all of these were really cool experiences, and we appreciate you taking time to be with us today. And what we want to talk about here today is your journey through sport and into life after the game. So I want to talk a little bit about very early in your life, your first sports experience. And we always ask our guests, what was the first sport that you remember playing as a kid? And then how did you find your way into boxing? Walk us through that journey for you.
I first experience, I guess, trying out for middle school football and
Okay.
getting cut immediately, and then trying out for basketball, and then getting cut, and then soccer, getting cut, and then following that pattern every year until ninth grade. Uh, Except for I got cut off every year except for one year in seventh grade. I I broke my wrist during the first scrimmage before tryouts was over, so I
Oh no.
technically didn't get cut. Uh,
Hey, there you
yeah,
go.
but when I got into boxing, it was great because I didn't need to make a team. I was
Mm,
automatically allowed to participate.
I love it. And tell me a little bit about what it was like, because obviously we talked about in the intro, you competed for Team USA, you competed around the world. What was it like? How did you navigate that journey, representing your country at times, just competing in the sport? Like you said, you're not on a team, you're by yourself. So walk us through what that was like.
It was cool because I understand the concept of in my mind, it's a formula for success. One
Hmm.
plus two equals three. It's just as simple as that. Like you are one and three is the outcome. So you need two, and two is whatever you need to get done to be successful. And all I needed to do was have self-discipline. So
Mm,
I basically got away with pretty much coaching myself for most of my career because I was able to display that discipline of like, I didn't need someone to check to make sure if I was on in shape or on weight or if I went running that morning. I kind of understand that was my job and my obligation.
yeah. No, it's great. And I think that that's a great
Oh,
segue
also,
into.
and it's not that I was just that disciplined alone. You have the added effect of physical consequences. So
True.
didn't do all those things, I would get beat up. And one of my greatest fears was getting knocked out and being a GIF. Like,
Mm,
it used to be being someone's profile picture of them knocking me out, but then I was like, oh, a GIF is so much worse.
yeah.
Uh, so that also contributed to some of the discipline.
No, I love that, and I love that you mentioned discipline, because I do think it's not uncommon for a lot of athletes to point to discipline as something that they were able to bring into their sport or learn in their sport. And so I would love to know, what impact did boxing make on your life as you're going through this journey? What other skills or life lessons has boxing taught you that you've taken forward with you into your work today?
Yeah. So my approach to boxing was a lot different than most. Most people are surprised when they find out I've won as much as I've won, but I've never turned pro in boxing. And it's because I had no interest in being a professional athlete. I just wanted to use boxing as a means to make a career for myself. So when I got into
Mm,
boxing, I joined a recreational program that was supposed to help kids get out the hood through sports. And in my mind, I was going to use boxing to open up any door possible. And
mhm.
luckily, my awkward style and my discipline made for a successful career in boxing right away. So I was able to travel the world with boxing, and I made sure to gather as much experience through life as possible. And now I'm making a career sharing those stories.
Yeah, I love that. And I see even some of the people that I'm sure have heard you speak that are putting in the comments, you inspired me to get up and go to the gym. You inspired me to do this, and it's all these great things. So I love, and it's clear that the impact boxing had on you to go out and help others is really paying off. So I'd love to talk to you. Clearly you had this different perspective, as you mentioned. So as boxing's winding down, how are you preparing for creating awesome talks or moving into that next chapter? Were there things that you were really intentional about doing that helped you kind of get set up for when boxing was no longer the main thing and you were really moving into what was next for you?
Yeah, actually, I can tell you the exact moment. And first nationals I won was in 2008. I won nationals, at least one nationals every year until 2012. 2012, I had won the Olympic trials to represent the USA in the London Olympics, and I got suspended and kicked off the Olympic team. And I lost everything that boxing gave me. And then
Mm,
I realized that boxing gave me so much, and without boxing, I had very little. So a light bulb went in my head. I decided when I returned to boxing after changing my last name to Awesome. Every interview I did, you heard about it. Like, I made sure I was outgoing. I wore a cape. I had a persona because in my mind I was building myself up for a career after boxing. So my goal was not only was I going to win and dominate, I was going to do so in a fun, loving way. And basically in my mind I was going to be the sports personality, but I ended up not going in that direction and went going the motivational speaking direction. But
mhm.
I always, since 2013, everything I did was with the thought of I'm an athlete and how can I leverage my position as an athlete to build a career for myself in the future. Because a lot of athletes think, oh, I'll worry about that after I'm done with sports, but they
Yeah.
don't realize no one cares about you after you're done with the sport.
Right.
Like, think about your favorite player after they're retired. Do you know what they're doing? No, and you don't care.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And it's so true. We see that so much, is that we see a lot of folks that are saying, okay, I'm done, now what? And there's so many missed opportunities, like you said, to take your efforts in sport and use them towards a larger purpose. And I think that's a really great mindset that you had. And I love that you talked about really being intentional with interviews that you were doing and how you presented yourself and whether it was fun. Some people might be really big on creating like impact for certain causes. So talking about that in your interviews, right? There's so many ways to use that platform, and I love that you chose to make yourself that platform and say, hey, this is who I want to present out there. This is who Cam Awesome is. And this is where I want this persona, who I am, but this persona I'm projecting to the world as well to take me once I can't, be in the ring anymore. So I love that. I wish more athletes would start to do that. And I'm glad you're sharing, because hopefully someone listening is going, okay, I need to start thinking about what I can start doing intentionally while I'm still playing here. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And you mentioned you were thinking about, oh, go ahead, please.
I just want to say, just because you may not be an Olympic level athlete doesn't mean that you don't have valuable skills and insights to share, or whatever you decide to pursue after, because there's someone in your neighborhood, or like if
Yeah.
you're a gymnast, there's someone who's 10 years younger than you who admires you and looks up to you, and there's so many people like that in your area. So you don't need to be at the Olympic level to make any type of difference.
Certainly not. I appreciate you saying that. And I think, your platform might be a lot of people or a few people, but you have one and you have influence. And I appreciate you saying that, because it is so true. And you never know who's looking at you as a mentor or role model that you can really make an impact in their life and what they do. So that's a really good point. And it kind of is what you're trying to do now. It sounds like with Awesome Talks is reach more people and be that inspiration, that motivator. And so you talked about maybe going into kind of sports personality after boxing, but you went this motivational route. Talk us through how you decided you wanted to go into speaking, why this was so important to you to really talk to people and share your story.
I would say what got me into this is my coach, John Brown. When I first started working with him in 2008, he would have me go and speak at all the high schools and middle schools in the area and try to get kids to join our nonprofit gym. So I always found that super fulfilling. So I would do that as I traveled with boxing. In 2012, during my suspension, I realized I needed something other than boxing. So my plan was I was going to be a stand-up comic, which, yeah, uh, that's I think you should do what you want, not what's statistically possible.
I
Uh,
love that.
so I decided to do stand-up comedy. After doing comedy for a while, I was booking gigs around the country, but the most I ever made was like $40 in a bar tab. So, and I don't drink, so it was kind of like
We were like,
I
well,
realized if I do motivational speeches and I actually do it with comedy and I infuse comedy and motivation, then I can do my dream of being a stand-up comic while still motivating people, making a
mm,
career for myself, and no longer having to do the cardio involved in boxing.
yeah, there you go. I love that. And I love that you were able to incorporate something that, again, you really wanted to do, regardless of the statistics of how possible it was or the odds of making it as a comedian. You said, I could be a comedian in my own way. I could do this motivational speaking. I could be really funny. People will remember me. They'll be motivated still. And I can live this dream, make a living for myself, most importantly, which is everybody needs to do that. And like you said, really incorporate all these things that you care about and that were important to you. So that's fantastic. And I want to know, like, where are you going next? Like, tell us a little bit about what you do now with Awesome Talks. What are the topics you speak
Okay.
on? Who is your target kind of audiences that you're looking to talk to?
Okay. Before I even go into that, I just want to share for the athletes that are listening.
Yeah.
Uh, you have a platform, and you just have to take a little bit of time and figure a way to be creative with that platform to make a career
Mm,
for yourself after sports. There's a lot of people who are in sports like wrestling. After you're done with college and wrestling, there really isn't a path other than kind of mixed martial arts. So maybe find a creative way to the sport that you love and whatever other hobby you have outside that sport. There's a creative way to mesh those together and make a career for yourself. Granted, it may not be the greatest financial career, but it will be, you could be paid in fulfillment. And
yeah.
also, if you're willing to bite the bullet in the beginning, because I didn't really make any money speaking for the first 5 or 6 years I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to go through that part before they have a successful speaking career. They're like, Cam, I'm an athlete. I want to be a successful speaker now. And I'm like, are you willing to put in these years of work? And you have to understand, just like you put in
Mm,
that work to become an athlete, you have to put in that work in whatever career you want to do after sports. And you only get a little bit of a time for someone to say, oh, that's so great. He's an athlete or she's an athlete. It's okay that they're mediocre at their job, because eventually people are going to stop caring that you're an athlete and stop caring that you made that free throw at that winning game, and start holding you responsible for actually doing your job. one of the hardest things for me to grasp after I was done with my sport was the fact that I had to pay for gym memberships now.
Mm,
Like, as an athlete,
yeah.
I've had these perks and privileges, and I'm like, Lifetime
Mm-hmm.
Fitness is charging me, Planet Fitness is charging, 24 Hour Fitness is charging me, but 24 Hour Fitness, they sponsor Olympic athletes. I shouldn't have to, but I'm not an
Mm-hmm.
Olympic athlete anymore.
Yeah.
I have,
Yeah. It's a great point, and I appreciate you saying that because nothing comes without hard work. And I do see a lot of people forgetting the path that it took to become the athlete that you are, right? If you were a college pro, it took a lot of years of practice and, really grinding to get to that place where now you might have some recognition or people do really care about you and your sport and what you're doing. And so I really appreciate that question that you asked, like, are you willing to do this hard work? Because to get to the point where you're making money as a speaker, you got to do a lot of free speaking to prove to people that you're worth the money, right? Or
yeah.
discounted speaking, however you want to work it out. But you got to do a lot of work to get those reps in, almost just like sports, to say, like, I could do this. And once you get there, it's awesome, but you still have to put that work in. And so I think that's a really good piece of advice for athletes now is like, there's going to be work regardless of what you want to do after sports. There's going to be effort you're going to have to put in, time you're going to have to put in. You just better figure out what you are willing to do, right? What is exciting to you enough to put that effort in, just like sports was. So that's such great advice. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Uh,
But I do want to hear about awesome talks. I want to get back to that question. And what do you like prefer to speak about? What's your, best kind of motivational message? And who do you prefer to speak to? Who are you trying to reach through awesome talks?
so what I realize is I started speaking at middle schools and high schools, and now I speak to adults as well as youth.
Mm-hmm.
And adults are nothing but children with driver's licenses. Like,
I love that.
so they need to get the same message as well. They need to hear the same thing. So whether I speak on cultural competence, because as captain of Team USA, I travel to over 30 countries, and that's where I learned to connect with people of different cultures. And now I speak at schools about cultural communication, as well as workplaces, as well as educators. I do speak on gratitude and resilience and how I use gratitude to be resilient. And that's kind of
Mm.
what I'm very passionate about speaking about right now.
That's awesome. No, I love that. And I think it is great. You had such a great experience being able to interact with people from all different backgrounds, from all different cultures, like you mentioned, and to be able to share that with other people, right? We're not, all of us are in that situation a lot of times as well in our schools or in our jobs, and being able to work with people that may not come from the same neighborhood, they may not speak necessarily the same first language as you, that may not have the same cultural background or rituals that you do. That's really important and will only could become more and more important as the world continues to grow. So that's a really cool message, and I appreciate you sharing that. I guess I just have a couple more questions for you, and you kind of gave some good advice already, but I want to know if there's anything you really want athletes to know before making that transition out of sports. What is the one thing you would tell them to make sure they do while they're still playing to prepare for that transition?
So especially for boxing, anytime someone tells me they want to be a boxer, like, or they just started boxing, just ask them a few questions. What are you willing to give for this sport? Like, what are you willing to
Mm.
sacrifice? And what is it going to take for you to leave?
Ah,
Because some people stick around a little bit too long and they take too many punches, or they stay in a career, they're going down a path that they're really not, they're they're not gaining any traction, they're hurting more than they're helping. So I like to ask athletes, like, what do you want? So when I started boxing, when 2008, when I got to my first national championship finals, you have to fill out this questionnaire: your height, your weight, your hometown. And one of the questions were, what is your goal from boxing? And most
mm,
people, if you check, it's like Olympic medal, heavyweight championship belt. Mine was to be a good role model and have my own TV show.
there you
That
go.
was in 2008. So I knew exactly what I wanted out of boxing. It was never to turn pro. And a lot
Mm,
of people couldn't grasp the fact, because if they would have won as much as I won, they would have turned pro. And the thing
sure.
is, I'm not that special. Like, if you look at my fights, I'm not remarkably strong. I'm not remarkably fast. There's nothing necessarily special about me other than the fact that I was willing to put in the work.
Mm,
And
yep,
you can do that in
100%.
anything. And I purposely, if you Google any pictures of me, I got a big goofy smile with a thumbs up. And the reason why I do that is so to make it clear that you don't need to look tough to actually be tough.
Mm.
So that kind of exterior facade that a lot of people put on to act hard, you don't need to do all that. So
That's true. I love it. I love it. And I love the vision you had. And I love those two questions. What are you willing to do to give up to be in the sport? And what are you going to be able to do? Like, what are you going to do when you leave? What do you want? How are you going to leave? Right? What is it going to take? I guess is the words you used. And I think that's a really good question because there will be a point that you will have to leave. Will it be on your own terms or will it be because you physically can't do it anymore? You have to make that decision and hopefully it doesn't come to the latter. But yeah, I think those are really good questions to ask, not only just for athletes, but for anyone entering something that they really want to do is, okay, what are you willing to give up? And when are you going to make that decision that it's time to hang them up or finish? So I appreciate that advice. That's awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Well, my last question is just really about what you're doing with Awesome Talks and where people can connect and engage. So tell us a little bit about what's coming up for you. I know you've been traveling everywhere. And then where, if people want to book you, if people want to learn more about the work you're doing, where can they find more information and get some more info about having you come out to their community?
Yeah. So Awesome Talks. It's my company started in 2017, and it's when I decided to take the path to go into speaking after boxing. And what I have done is I'm merging stand-up comedy because my dream was always to perform, be a stand-up comic, but also they don't make much money unless you're like the Kevin Harts, and that wasn't going to work for me.
Right.
I was already broke as an athlete. I'm not going to be broke as a comic. So I decided to go into motivational speaking and merge stand-up comedy with motivational speaking. So what I've created is a genre of motivational comedy. And that's not like a real genre yet, and I want to make that a genre. So my goal
Mm.
through Awesome Talks is to make that genre more known, because if someone's laughing, they're listening. If they're listening, they're learning. And if they're learning, I did my job because they were also entertained.
I
So
love it.
that's kind of what Awesome Talks is offering. I start my upcoming school year tour probably mid-August, and I'll be traveling to the 48 intercontinental states. I've yet to be to Alaska or Hawaii. Those are on my to-do list, but I'm speaking at corporations, high schools, middle schools, colleges, anyone who needs to be motivated and understand what it is to have the championship mindset.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure a lot of people here and in our network fit into that category as in the 48 states. Hopefully there's some Hawaii and Alaska in there to get those checked off your list, but absolutely love it. And where's the best place to connect with you? What's the website? And should people follow you here on Instagram for the latest updates?
CamFawesome.com and like at CamFawesome everywhere, because I'm not famous or anything, so no one's trying to take my name. Also, do you play pickleball?
I don't, but you're like the 10th person this month that has asked because it is the newest thing for sure.
I'm gonna go play pickleball in a little bit later today, and I, it's better on my knees than tennis. But now I'm playing with people who like know what the rules mean and like the tape on the ground. So like keeping score, all that. I like to keep score like you do in those athletes. But yeah, I was just wondering if you played pickleball.
No, I need to start. This is again, you're like the ninth or 10th person like in the last few weeks that's been like, oh, do you play pickleball? I'm playing pickleball later. So it's picking up everywhere. There's a lot of people getting into it now. So gonna have to try it out. I've heard good things. So
Sweet, sweet.
I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Well, Cam, thank you so much for being here. This was really fun. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. For everyone tuning in, if you don't already follow Cam, make sure you do. Go check out camfawesome.com. Try and grab him and bring him into your community. And yeah, Cam, thanks for talking to us tonight. And we really appreciate you coming on the show.
Dope. Thanks for having me.
All right. Enjoy your pickleball. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. Later.
Bye-bye.